where there was a mental illness there that they couldn't help it. It was something they were born with. And I know that folks that have that, whether it's a chemical thing, need the treatment. So we have to provide that treatment. I've also been part of the foster care. We've been foster parents. And we see children who were no fault of their own, but through PTS, through traumatic things, have to go through counseling. So I believe that doing prevention, preemptive treatment before people get in that spot and end up in jail. Now I would say it's a different story. If someone committed a violent crime, that's something that's a separate consideration. But we have to provide treatment for those in prison fighting mental illness, and I believe in ensuring that we have mental health coverage on insurance plans and so forth that can treat this before it becomes a problem when they go to jail. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ashford?
There's so much to be done. This is the most critical health care problem of the age, certainly. And it's a couple of things. I know, talk about veterans for a moment. 600,000 of the 2 million veterans in Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts have either PTSD or some other depression-related ailment. And, you know, we need veterans courts. My brother Mark is going to start the first veterans court in Nebraska on the 4th of November. We introduced and passed legislation in Congress this last session that puts more funding into veterans courts. You know, we have two major pieces of legislation we have passed in the House. I'm reading it because it's hard to read. Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act, 2015, the Murphy Bill. Some of you are familiar with that. It didn't go as far as we'd like it to go, but it breaks down barriers, data sharing, discussion of HIPAA issues so that families can talk to doctors so that we can get care to people quicker. And then a bill I've introduced with Doug Collins from Georgia, which I think is a great bill because it talks about training law enforcement on how to identify mental health problems on the street. So that, and making sure that we have a place to put those people and not necessarily incarcerated. That means more community-based health care. That means more robust funding because if there are options in the community, incarceration. And then lastly, we made a huge mistake when we got rid of the regional centers and put everybody in the regional centers into prison. And that is going to take a generation to get out of that, but we need to focus on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just to review once again, make sure we have these report cards right. You both said yes to the question of do you agree with quality health care that should be affordable to all folks, regardless of their financial condition. In other words, we don't kill people because they can't afford to get the treatment. Second, would you amend or repeal, and would you reform? So we got two kind of flip answers here. One is to repeal and then replace as a single legislation. The other one is retain the ACA but reform. Is that a fair summation of your positions?
It's my part, Thank you.
And then finally, should we criminalize mental illness and assure mentally ill get appropriate treatment? Both of you say yes. And I assume that would be in your jurisdiction at the federal level, but also hopefully applying down to the state level as well.
And it takes a partnership like that.
Any additional comments?
I would want to make a comment on Medicaid, because remember the Medicaid population is that we are not insuring now. When we didn't expand Medicaid, 100% of the cost is paid by the federal government. The other problem, if you devolve all this to the states, and I'm not debating down here because I understand this point, but if you devolve all this to the states, we're going to get into a Medicaid situation where the state will not pay for those services. That's the problem. We aren't paying Medicaid parity. I mean, mental health is part of Medicaid expansion. A lot of the people that need mental health care are in that group. And when we don't expand Medicaid, we're not providing the kind of care they need. So that's...
I'll call that inbounds, but I'll open up that I give you a chance to respond to that.
My reply would be, that's why we have an elected representative government. If we're not satisfied with what the state leadership is doing, we hold them accountable to polls. So again, I think we should provide mental health coverage. I do think it should be state-centered, and I'd rather hold our state leadership accountable than a bureaucrat to help with human services.
Thank you.
And now we're moving into our last topic here tonight for our Congressional District, and we're going back to the topic of energy and providing environmental sustainability, and we're going to be looking at this at the federal level.
common good, belonging to all and meant for all. Our position is that the Earth's climate is warming dangerously, that the principal cause is human activity, and that unless immediately addressed, our local communities will experience adverse consequences, as will all life on the planet. Therefore, OTOP will seek out and promote private and public policies that reduce our community's contributions to climate change and promote appropriate adaptations. The OTOP Environmental Sustainability Action Team is currently investigating and evaluating its views on policies to address climate change at the national level, and are currently studying carbon fee and dividend. A carbon fee and dividend policy is a proposal for a national revenue-neutral system that will take action on the pressing issue of climate change. The system would place a predictable, steadily rising fee on the polluting emissions causing climate change. The total net fees collected from businesses for this pollution would be returned to American households through monthly payments to all of you. Border adjustments for imports and exports would level the playing field for goods from countries to or from not taking action on climate change in a similar manner. The benefit of this policy would make polluting fuels that are causing climate change cost more than they do today. Higher costs would encourage less use of these polluting types of energy. The dividend paid to all households would help them and help especially our low-income households with paying these higher costs. In fact, about 2/3 of households would break even or receive a higher dividend than they would pay in higher prices, with low-income households benefiting the highest percentage of the time, basically because they use less energy, spend less on their gas bill, and buy less stuff. Many leading climate scientists and economists support a revenue carbon fee and dividend, and there are attributes of this policy that align with ideals of both Republicans and Democrats. Our question for you candidates is, do you support the concept of a carbon fee and dividend that is revenue neutral to address climate change? We'll start with Congressman Ashford, please. You have 90 seconds. 90.
9 is an odd number, but I can see if I can speed this up. No, I don't think that's the appropriate way to handle the problem. What I do support, and what I have supported in Congress, and let me just say, I think it's extremely well thought out. I understand where you're going with it. I've read a lot about it. But I think it's too complicated a solution for the problem right now. So what I would do is focus on energy efficiency, and we have bills in the House, and there are bills coming down from the Senate to deal with energy efficiency, to try to encourage what you're talking about, which is encourage energy efficiency in the home. I'm a little concerned about I'm a lot concerned about the fact that it's not progressive, and then thirdly, the return of the money is not progressive, and then thirdly, I just think it won't get us to where we need to be. I supported the tax extender bill, which extends tax credits for renewable fuels. I support that. I also want to say something about OPPD. I think we are very fortunate. We're the only public power entity in the country, and we have the kind of incentives built into public power that are getting us to the 2030 goals without mandates. And I'm very concerned about mandates in this area, especially when you deal with public power, because with private power, you have the opportunity to do tax credits which are not available in public power. That's a huge problem. I think we've got the example here in Nebraska. I think we ought to do that and provide incentives for individuals to be more efficient and industry to adopt more energy efficient options.
One of the benefits of doing this and getting outside of your own circles is learning new concepts. I appreciate that. In the spirit of tonight of giving a yes or no answer, though, it's not a depends, not a maybe, or anything like that. I'll say no for now. I think it's one of the best concepts when it comes to carbon tax that I've seen put on the table, frankly. I'm just not prepared yet to step out there on that. I worry about the bureaucracy behind it that would have to execute it. I think there's a little more digging to go into it before we get our arms around it. I think there's a cost involved. This would be a huge program, right? It would take a lot of folks working together to put the money in and then figure out how to divide it out and mail it back out. I I think too, I'm concerned as well, I think it was already mentioned a little bit of, airfares for everybody's gonna go up. The deliver a gallon of milk for everybody's gonna go up. So it would concern me too on the cost, so if anything, I think you would start off with a very small thing, just to test it. But I think we're better off doing other incremental steps forward. We should incentivize energy efficiencies. I've been to the leaders recently of air power, or not air power by flying, but air energy. And I'm so impressed that today, folks with air energy can make money without, tax incentives and subsidies because they've made it so efficient and effective. So I want to keep pushing the ball down the road for electric cars, hybrids, and other areas that we can move forward. I will not put this proposal off the table. I think it still deserves discussion. I'm not prepared at this point to say yes.
Just a follow-up question on that then, for both of you. If elected in November, will you work with OTOC to find solutions that you think are workable from a federal government perspective to address the issue of climate change?
For me, absolutely yes. I'm honest. I've spent most of my career doing national security issues, deployments and work with NATO. And I like the challenge of seeing new areas and new ideas. Actually, it intrigued me. I never heard of this idea until you briefed me on it several months ago. So yes, I think we owe it to continually to improve and to make our environment cleaner, and I would be committed to do that.
Of course, and interesting, votes make a difference. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, and there was a vote in the Armed Services Committee that actually only failed by 1 or 2 votes of 62 members of the committee that would have precluded our military from considering climate change as part of their thinking when they develop new initiatives for the military. The military has done a great job in climate change issues, and that would have been a very scary thing. But yes, of course, I would be, and there are lots of good ideas out there. I think it's all hands on deck, think of anything, but what has to happen is there has to be a bipartisan approach. We have to have goals. We have to have a vision. Energy independence in 10 years. Vision 1, 2030, less dependence on traditional fuels. Those are things we have to, and that comes with leadership and establishing the criteria.
So one last question, and I'll explain a little bit about this. Speaking of bipartisan and working together, there's a bipartisan climate solutions caucus that was founded 8 months ago by 2 Florida representatives, Republican Carlos Curbelo and Democrat Ted Deutsch. Quote, the caucus will serve as an organization to educate members on economically viable options to reduce climate risk and promote our nation's economy, security, infrastructure, agriculture, water supply, and public safety. Which my comment is, all of those things are going to be impacted by climate change. Members must join this caucus as a bipartisan pair, 1 Democrat, 1 Republican. There are currently 20 members from 11 states with representatives from New York to California, Illinois to Oregon. Candidates, will you work to find a partner with the other party to join the Climate Solutions Caucus and work to address this issue through bipartisan legislation?
First of all, let me tell you what my belief is and why we have to change government. I will never work against somebody that is working with me. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republican. I won't campaign against them. I've never done that in the legislature. I won't do that now. That's what causes the problem. I've got 5 Republicans. Yes, I'm in the caucus as long as I find a Republican. But once the campaign started 6 months ago, nobody would talk to anybody about doing anything. So I've got 5 Republicans. Elise Stefanik from upstate New York is my #1 priority one when I get back. But that's an extremely good caucus. And what it does is it takes industry, it takes environmental groups, science, and comes together with proposals. I think it's fabulous, and I'm in. I just got to find a Republican, get elections over, and we'll get that done.
So I'd also be committed to doing that. One of the Republicans that are on the caucus, I've gotten to know and admire, like the spirit of what he does. It's Congressman Curbelo from Florida, and I think that he sets a good standard there, and I like how he does business. He's in a similar vein, follow his footsteps. Thanks.
Thank you.
solution topics, both of you said yes, you would work to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now, as our candidates take a seat here in the front row that we've saved for them, let's show them our appreciation for coming out here. Running for any office at any level of the ballot is a grueling, demanding experience, and for more than half of the candidates who commit themselves to that process, the rewards are very meager. So we need to show when people say people who just run are serving, that's very true. And again, we thank the 4 candidates who came out here this evening to be part of our democratic process. So they're doing their part. That means you've got to do your part. Now, I know the very fact that you're here means that there's a very high probability that you're going to vote. Can I get an amen from everyone who's going to vote? Amen. Very good. So that's not the issue. But I also know something about the folks that come to these accountability sessions. I know from my own congregation who's here. All of you are leaders within your congregation. All of you have friends that are in your congregations, in your circle of friends, the organizations that you belong to, because I know you belong to a lot of organizations. I know you. And your job is to go out there and let people know that this is a very important election, that this is not a time to sit back, that no matter what side of the vote you're going to cast, that voting is a sacred obligation that we need to do. And we need to share the information that we've learned here tonight with our friends and neighbors, and together we can re-embrace that notion that we are a government, that we are in control of the citizens. So let's have everybody who's going to go out there, talk to their friends and neighbors, stand up right now and say, yes, we're going to go out there with a big round of applause. We have one more issue that we're not going to ask our candidates because it's a decision that's going to be left directly to